Hello, everybody. My name is Aura Ordóñez Molina. I am the Latina Engagement Fellow for Walker's Legacy. I'm pleased to serve as your moderator today. Named in honor of Madam C.J. Walker, Walker's Legacy was created with a mission to cultivate an ecosystem of access designed to inspire, equip, and engage a global network of professional and entrepreneurial women of color. You can learn more about Walker's Legacy by joining us online at www.walkerslegacy.com. Every month, we set up a Level Up series where we host a Latinx person of influence who has achieved success in their respective field. These conversations aim to offer exclusive insight on how emprendedoras are cementing their legacy and paving the way for inclusivity in different industries. So let's get started with today's program. Today's guest is Monica Guzman. Monica is a Dominican Republic born, New York raised empowerment and business coach. Not only is Monica a thriving business coach with a plethora of experience, but she also prioritizes what many coaches are looking past, the wellness of their client. Monica is committed to walking alongside people to empower them to grow however they see fit while supporting them to live with ease. As a business founder herself, Monica designed Trabajando con Ease, a mastermind group for new entrepreneurs to have access to peer-to-peer coaching and develop their business model. Monica has over 7 years of experience in creating, programming, talent acquisition, career development, and startup operations. She is also a Reiki practitioner who strives to uplift her community and create opportunities to pay it forward. So, welcome, Monica. Thank you
I'm
for
so
being here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I love these kinds of chat and being able to talk to other fellow Latinas and just create this network. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to get the questions rolling. Thank you so much for having me.
We're really excited to have someone like you, so well rounded and so experienced in your field. And that really leads me to my first question. Everybody has a journey. And I want to ask you, can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in this and what really is your background and what helped you move forward?
Yeah, so I kind of feel like I stumbled upon this. So I went to school. I graduated with a bachelor's in communications and public relations. I swore that once I was gonna graduate, I was gonna like fly to California. I was gonna be a publicist, and life was gonna be great. Unfortunately, I actually had a really hard time getting a job being from New York City. There's a lot of competition. So I joined a nonprofit that helped get digital skills. So I decided to do this nonprofit and just shoot my shot to see if I can get a job in digital marketing, which was great at the time. It was a field that no one really had known about. So I did the program for about a year. I was very involved. And then they actually brought me back as a hire. So I actually became a nonprofit leader, and I was a program manager at a startup nonprofit. I was literally one out of the four team members. And with that comes great growth and great opportunities. So being in a startup really prepares you for entrepreneurship. And the reason why I say that is because there are no structures in place. And you're able to you are able to make things up as you go and experiment and see what works for the community, what doesn't work for the community. Um, so when I worked at this nonprofit, not only did I lead the programming, but I also led their operations. I led their talent acquisition. I was able to grow the organization from a team of 4 to a team of 21 within 2 to 3 years, which was really exciting. But once I realized how much growth was happening, it caused a lot of burnout for me personally. And, being a Latina, we are raised to get a good job, stay loyal to the company no matter what. Like, you don't rest. Um, And once I realized, I'm like, wait, if I can do this for a startup and I can develop programming and I can hire people and I can grow an organization to be well known, and the organization ended up being known by so many other magnificent organizations and getting funding. I told myself, I'm like, I wonder what it would look like if I did this for myself. If I created something that can help my community, not only being created by me, but I always thought about it as for the people, by the people, because I'm part of the community. So I was like, let me just try this entrepreneur thing and see if I can get some consulting gigs. And I quit my job, and I have been successful in doing so, getting clients, and also doing a lot of coaching. Through my nonprofit experience, my goal and my job was to coach students in landing their first entry level position, along with a lot of other support. And one thing I realized throughout my journey, I always felt like self-care and wellness was in this bucket, and then like professionalism was on this bucket. But I was a person that kind of felt like they needed to be together, because I had a really hard time creating those boundaries at work, especially if I wasn't taught by them, like taught them by my parents, right? So that's how I got started. I've been doing this for a while, for about 2 years now on the side. And now I'm able to consult. I consult with other nonprofits and help other startup organizations develop their operation systems. Because one thing I realized about startups is once you get a good structure in place, you're able to replicate it over and over again and create really
Mhm.
sustainable systems. So I decided to do that while incorporating wellness in the same form, because it's so important, especially for entrepreneurs. Like, you need to develop those systems for yourself so that you're able to bring your best self every day to work.
Absolutely. I really like how you mentioned like kind of creating your own structures in these corporate spheres, sort of. And
Yeah.
that really leads me to my next question too. Like, can you tell us a little bit about your leadership style and philosophy in sort of an everyday work environment? You know, because you're
Yeah.
pretty fast paced and it can cause burnout. You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm in the middle of like two leadership styles. I feel like I'm a visionary, which means I can see big picture. I can see where the organization is going. I can see where your end goal can be. But then I'm also a coach. So I love one of the things that I just like, I really hold on to is when you hire people to do their job, you're hiring them because you trust them, right? So it's how can I coach you through doing your day to day, or how can I help you to achieve those goals? I'm a firm believer to let people kind of figure it out on their own while guiding them at the same time, because I don't like micromanaging, and two, I feel like anyone and everyone can do different things, and there's different avenues, different ways to do these things, right? So you and I might have the same problem, but we can come to a solution very differently. So my leadership style is, I'm one that I really just want to walk a lot, like be next to you and hold your hand in case you need hand holding. But other than that, I fully trust people to execute how they see fit, because again, there's just so many ways to do it. And I think when you allow people to bring their best selves to work and they know that they're entrusted with this project or this goal, people automatically want to do a good job because it's their name on it. So I really feel coaching and guiding people through it is my leadership style. And so far, it has worked. I've been able to see people really own their work, and people really go into it and just be excited and proud of the work that they did, regardless if it looks different from the person who did it somewhere else.
Right. I absolutely, I think you're right. I really like how you also mentioned how you incorporate sort of restorative health practices as well in your coaching with your clients.
Yeah.
And, it's just a fact. Like a lot of these practices are kind of undermined in corporate environments, and I know that you work a lot with that and you with your clients, like one to one with peer coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about how you incorporate that with your clients and what that looks like, especially now? We're going through like
Yeah.
COVID times, and people are really facing that burnout. Working from home, even if it's not just a corporate environment, office necessarily, but
Yeah.
what advice would you give to them in this matter?
Yeah, so I think the pandemic really was able to shine a light on how much people actually work, whether in a corporate office or at home or essential workers. Like, it really was able to shine a light on some of these systems that, like, yeah, they probably worked for the last 50 years, but like, I always say we're in the future, so we should be working less and making more thanks to technology, right?
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, yo, tech is here. A lot of things can be systematized or, based on computer or tech. Like, we have means to do it. So one thing that I have been noticing more and more is a lot of organizations now are incorporating wellness into their day to day, right? Because if you're constantly working, I always think of you like people as cups. If you're constantly working and your cup is full and you're literally pouring out into everything that you do, when does your cup ever get refilled? Right. So I think companies tend to forget that, like, not only are we like, we're humans and we come to work on a daily, and work is not the only place that requires our energy, right? If you really think about it, work is like, yes, you spend most of the day at work. Let's say you're 9 to 5 or you're an entrepreneur and you're constantly working. You spend a lot of energy there, but your day doesn't stop there, right? You have to continue with, you could be a mother, you could be a sister, you could be a friend. There's so many relationships around us in society and in your community that takes energy. Grocery shopping takes energy, right? So I think when organizations bring wellness to the forefront, people are allowed to bring their personal self instead of separating your professional and your personal. If you're able to bring it together, I think you're able to create an easier balance of where your energy goes through the day. And each day can look very different, right? Like, you can be super energetic for work one day and then the next you're kind of wiped out. So I love that companies are encouraging people to take the time to take more time off. I've seen a lot of companies go the unlimited PTO route or flexible PTO so you can have more days to rest. One of the things I do on my one-on-one coaching that I think is very important, my motto is todo con ease. Like, we are going to do everything with ease, whether it's business, whether it's your family, whether it's grocery shopping, whatever it is, we're going to do it easily with the path of least resistance, right?
I love that.
Because thank
Mhm.
you. And sometimes when I first started practicing todo con ease for myself, it was so difficult because we're so used to just going go, right?
Right.
I remember I think back and I'm like, how did people like wake up at 5 in the morning, go to the gym, do something with their kids, go to work, come home, pick up kids, do dinner? Like, when do you ever have time for yourself? Right. So I think it's so important to incorporate, whether even if it's having your coffee by yourself in the morning, having some tea, whether it's journaling, and just doing the thing that is the most easeful for you. With my clients, I very much push them to create the life that they want. So when I ask them that question, I'm like, literally bring me down to like the very thing you're doing on that day while you're in your business. How many breaks are you taking? Do you want to take breaks? Do you want to have the flexibility to walk outside during lunch and look at the sun and get some vitamin D? So for me, it's very important to practice breath work and journaling. And I also bring Reiki into the mix because Reiki is universal energy healing. And because everything requires energy, Reiki allows you to really move that energy around and like kind of feel rejuvenated. Like, I always feel brand new when I do Reiki. Um, So that's something that I bring with my clients. And I always remind them when, entrepreneurs, one thing that I love about entrepreneurs is we always want to do the next thing. We're like, okay, like this project is done. I got these clients. Like, let me do the next
Mhm.
thing. Let me do this. Let me do this. And pretty soon you kind of end up in this, on this hamster wheel where it's like, but where's time for Monica? Where's Monica's hobbies? So I also encourage my clients to do things that also not per se like have the wellness mark on them, but like how do you play? How do you play? Do you play with your kids? Do you go to the park? Do you like to color? Like what are some things that you used to do when you were little, right?
Right.
Didn't think twice about, right? And had fun with. How do you bring that back into adult world, right? Like riding bikes. I recently started riding my bike and I was like, man, I really forgot how fun riding bikes was, right? And
You forget.
you forget how fun reading books is. You forget roller skating. I seen a lot of my friends get back into skating recently, and every time I see them I'm like, wow, I remember when I used to do that when I was little. But as I grew older, I kind of grew a little bit more fearful of falling, right? So we let all these
Mhm.
things get in our way, and then we let life get in our way that we forget how to play. We forget how to relax, especially children of immigrants. Like we do not know what is relax. Like I remember hearing East for the
Self-care? What is that?
right. My mom sees me meditating and she's like, "Vete a rezar." And I'm like, "Ma, it's kind of like crazy. I'm praying. Like I'm kind of praying at the same time.
Right.
So it's so interesting their dynamics because we don't know that. So I feel like one thing that I've been working on and one thing that constantly comes up in our mastermind group, Trabajando con Is, is how do we find the balance of being those hustlers and those entrepreneurs and being successful and wanting to get to the bag, because we all do, right? We all want to be successful in some way, and we all want to be proud of the work that we're doing here. But how do we do it while like not stressing ourselves out, right? And just kind of going with the flow. Um, I'm a firm believer that when you set your intentions, everything will work in your favor. We're so quick to think about the negatives and be like, but what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? But what if it does work? Right? Because it probably is going to work, because if you work at it and you want it, it's probably going to work out. So I think the shifting people's mindset is a little bit, it takes time, and it's a lot of responsibility on the person to really catch your thoughts and think about, okay, but how can I make this work for me? And that's one thing I love about easeful living, and I love about just like this new wave that people are on of like really trying to figure out what is the meaning of life, because the pandemic took a lot of things away from us. It took away social settings, it took away going out, it took away those little things that we thought we needed, like the gym, and it left us with the bare minimum: ourselves, our families, and our health. And I think the pandemic, yes, it has been so terrible for so many people, but at the same time, it has really allowed us to rethink, one, how the workforce, right? The place of work,
Mhm.
and two, rethink how people actually work and spend their time. And more and more people want remote jobs. More and more people like the flexibility. More and people want to spend time with their family, because at the end of the day, we're here for a good time. We're not here for a long time. So we might as well enjoy those moments with each other and build up those experiences, because once you build up those experiences of playing and being and doing things that you really love, it allows you to be creative for the work that you're doing, right? Because now you can see things differently, right? Like I think about being able to go outside in the park and kind of get inspired by nature, right? Just sitting there and listening to your thoughts. Like we are generations that are solely on tech. So it's like, when are we allowed to not only hear our thoughts, but trust our thoughts and not look continuously for external validation. And I think that's something that's very important, and people are slowly waking up. And I think corporations, I think there are some corporations that will scream wellness, but not practice it on the back end, right? And not give employees the space to do that. Or there's entrepreneurs that scream wellness, but when was the last time they got a break, right? So I think it's really important for anyone who talks about wellness, like, show me what you're doing. Show me what's your wellness like. How often do you take a break? What is important to you? And I think, putting that in your values is very important. So I love that organizations are doing this. I love that corporations are doing this. And I really do think that give us another couple of years and the workforce is going to be completely different. I truly believe the 5-day work week is out the window pretty soon. Like, bring on the 4-day work week, give us more time to relax. And I think people are really wanting that because we're here for, like I said, for a good time, and there's so much to enjoy in life, that I think organizations can provide that space for employees to have that balance.
Yeah, I really love how you mentioned redefining wellness, and it's sort of like almost going back to your inner child and remembering what that felt like.
Oh
Because you
my
really,
God.
you really do forget, especially as like children of
Mhm.
immigrants, and it really is just so fast paced. You don't get a break.
Yeah.
And I really like how you're redefining these structures and really incorporating them into your clients. That's really awesome. So, Monica, did you have, like, for example, a specific job or experience that made wellness and health something you would want to incorporate in your
Yeah.
future jobs? Can you tell us
Yes.
a little bit about that
So,
experience?
yeah, of course. So my last job that I worked at this nonprofit, it was that it wasn't in wellness, but one thing that we did incorporate in the organization was we incorporated a lot of we had like a social work department, and they
Mhm.
worked a lot on with therapy, and we were able to provide students therapy sessions. And that right there was one thing. I'm like, therapy. I'm like, my mom never talks about therapy, or like it was never an option. So that to me was like my first hint of like, there's a place that we can go and talk about ourselves and like work on ourselves. That was my first. And then as the organization grew, the experience of the lack of wellness is what made me want to get into wellness. Because the organization was growing, and it was growing very rapidly, which is like great. And it's so exciting to be part of an organization that's growing. But for some people, it didn't fit. Like, it didn't fit for me personally, because that's not the pace that I wanted to run my life on. It's not something that sat well with me. And again, it to me, it led to burnout, and it led to stress, and it led to night. Like, I remember thinking, going back, and I'm like, I remember nights I would come home and I was just so stressed out that I'm just like, oh my God, like I couldn't even see past my job. I couldn't see who Monica was past doing this 9 to 5 and doing this work and committing to her community. So one thing that because of the lack of, I was like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna do this for me. Like, I'm gonna create the space for me, and hopefully I can create the space for others. And one thing I realized about getting into wellness is, the more I was doing research on different techniques and different things to help me and kind of gain my balance back, the more I found more women, more people, and also men yearning for that and looking for
Right.
that, and saying, oh my God, you're also having trouble with this. You're trying meditation. Like, I haven't tried meditation. What do you think about it? Right. So, on my wellness journey and figuring out what works for me, I found a community of many people that are looking to do the same thing. And that just really powered me up to do it even more, because it made me realize that my community from Washington Heights, my Dominican community from Dominican Republic, my New York community, all the networks that I have been in, there was literally pockets of people that were looking to get into wellness and to find that wellness for themselves. So for me, it was lack of wellness pushed me into wellness, because once I started my wellness journey and I started meditating and I started journaling, once you see the effects of how it works for your day to day, you kind of get a little bit like addicted to it, because it's like, wow, if I was able to do this much progress in 1 month of just journaling or dedicating 2 minutes of meditation, you start realizing the impact that it has on your life. And it's mostly it's positive, right? You start growing, you start kind of going into your own and really becoming your authentic self, because you have that time for you. And you realize that if you can't be good for yourself, you can't help other people. So me being in the industry that I'm in, that I constantly want to help people. I am here to guide people. I need to make sure that in order for me to give them my energy and give them my advice, my energy needs to be A1. And it's not always A1, but I will strive to make sure that I have the tools in order to make sure that I can bring the best self to my clients. And I feel like that's when the best ideas come out, is when you're able to really think through and not be rushed and do it with ease. It's extremely important.
I love that. I really like how you also encourage this dialogue of seeing what kind of restorative health practices work for each individual, because it's really tailored to their experience as well. And I feel like those conversations are definitely not had enough, for
Yeah.
sure. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, one of the things also that we tend to forget is all these modalities that are out there. Like, it might work for me, but maybe meditation doesn't work for you. Maybe journaling works
Right.
for you, right? And I think people should want to be open-minded on the different modalities, because there's people all around the world coming up with different ways to kind of connect back with themselves. So like, the more open you are to it, you never know what works for you. And then what works for you, stick with it.
Love it. Trabajando con ease. So, Monica, what are you seeing and what are you hoping to see with these organizations, nonprofits, corporate spheres, just working from home, that they have a social mission, they want to incorporate health and wellness into their business model with their employees. And what does that look like for you? And what are you hoping to see, hopefully, in the future?
Yeah. So one thing I'm seeing is more companies are into it. Like, I've seen companies bring on wellness coaches or do like meditation retreats, or, give employees more access on how to do different things. I've seen a couple of apps that companies are using that gear to like how to manage burnout, how to avoid it, how to create healthy habits, how to break bad habits, right? And one thing that I love about this is that organizations are finally seeing people for the whole self, not just that associate that comes into work from 9 to 5 and is doing, associate work, but we're seeing the person is like the whole person. What do you like to do? What are some ways that we can help relieve your stress levels? Some people can get super anxious when about to do a new project. How can the employer support that? How are managers now more equipped to not only deal with just the day to day, but to help the overall person, to guide them? I've seen many organizations do that, and I think I've seen many nonprofits right now like move to that. So I follow a couple of nonprofits on like their Instagram, and they'll do like wellness Wednesdays, or they'll have conversations with like therapists and things like that. And I think that's pretty cool. I mean, the professional and the personal, they're not parallel. Like, it's one person doing one job, and sometimes people are going to have bad days. And as a company, how do we support those bad, the good, the medium days, so that we can do effective work, right? Because if an employee feels crappy, they're not going to do good work. They're going to be in their feelings. I'm going to be in my feelings. Like, it is what it is. I'm going to be in my feelings, and it's going to be a little bit hard. So I think equipping managers with the proper tools and trainings, and bringing in other outsourced activities I've also seen. So like I've seen more companies do like just fun retreats. I've seen a lot of remote companies online. They do like retreats twice a year where all they do is have fun. Like, yeah, we'll work when we have to work. I think I saw one that had a retreat for, it was a 5-day retreat, and it was like the first 2 days they worked, but after that it was like team bonding, having a good time, exploring where they were at. And that's just so important because it allows the company to see the people for like being humans and not just employees, right?
Right.
Incorporating that, I think, is really important. One thing I would love to see in the future is I'm really big about the work week and how many hours we work, right?
Mm,
Like, I do not think that a lot of industries require a 40-hour work week anymore. I think a lot of people are starting to be more finding systems to be more productive in less time. So one thing I would love to see is organizations really do um, their due diligence on their org and see how it works for them, and incorporate new ways if it fits, right? If they notice that their employees are super productive and be way below the 40-hour week, I would love to see organizations be more flexible in that sense and let kind of people come up, not with their own schedules, of course, with structure, but create lives and work that works for them. Because I also think that's how you're going to be able to keep a lot of employees with retention, is having the flexibility, right? The pandemic forced many organizations to go remote, and
mm.
it showed us that we can do a lot of work while we're home, right? So I think organizations are going to have a hard time getting people back to work, right? Like full time. And I also think that organizations are going to start thinking about what it looks like, right? Because many employees were still able to do really good work while being at home. So I think giving people the flexibility for that is very important. And yeah, I think that's what's going to happen in the future. I think the hours that we work is going to lessen, and people are going to be able to really create the lives that they want for themselves. And I think companies are going to be even more successful because you're not going to have employees that dread coming to work, right? I think
Yeah.
retention is going to go up, and I think that people are going to go back to kind of being loyal to companies, because I think that kind of died out a little bit, where many people are jumping from one place to another, to another, to another. And it's because, these companies haven't really found the secret sauce to always keeping someone and retaining them. So I'm eager to see how people are gonna incorporate the learnings from the pandemic workforce wise, how they're gonna incorporate into day to day. And my hope is that they are on the right side of history and they listen to the people, and people also voice what works for them and what doesn't work for them.
Absolutely. People are not, it's not a monolith. There's different layers to us. And of course, there should be some sort of responsibility in moving forward and trying to understand, how to incorporate and how to be a better fit for your employees if they're
Yeah.
doing the work for you. So thank you so much for this amazing conversation, Monica. We loved having you. Can you tell us how people can stay in touch with you?
Yes, so people can find me on Instagram. Todo con Ease is the handle, at Todo con Ease. They can go to my website, todoconease.com. My email is connectingwithmonica@gmail.com. So whatever it is, email me, DM me, find me on my website. I'm really excited for anyone who is interested to live on a life with ease.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to tag you as well on our social networks.
Great.
And beautiful. So, Walker's Legacy Programming looks to bring you insightful, meaningful opportunities for conversations like these and community. And we hope that you found today's a special hangout opportunity. And we hope to see you in the future at Walker's Legacy Programming. You can visit us at www.walkerslegacy.com for our latest and greatest activities. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.